Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we look back on 2020 and at my favorite 10 horror movies from this year. So as tough as 2020 has been, there has still been some pretty damn good horror movies. And here's a list of my 10 favorites. No particular order, and keep in mind there are some I'm sure that I still haven't seen that probably deserve to be on this list. But out of the movies that I have seen, here's a list of my 10 favorites. Starting off the list at number 10, Freaky. So Freaky happened to be one of the few from this list that I actually did get to see in theaters. And I also have seen it once at the drive-ins. So, I had a good time with this movie. Was it perfect by any means? No. But it was a fun little horror movie with some really great slasher kills and a lot of great fun comedy. It reminded me of the 80s slasher era, and it paid a lot of tribute to those 80s slasher movies. So for me, since I love 80s slashers so much, this was just a really fun time, and I feel like too many people have brushed it aside or picked it apart instead of just seeing it for what it was, and what it was just a fun little slasher. Next up at number 9 is Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight. And this was another one, kind of like Freaky, that paid homage to those 80s slashers. And once again, it was that really fun little slasher type of movie. But what was cool about this is it did have some twists and turns and some things that kind of made it a little bit different. And it was a lot more fun than I expected it to be, and I really enjoyed this film way more than I ever expected. So because of that is why I'm including it on this list. Because once again, it's just another fun little movie. Nothing crazy, nothing big, but just a fun, well done slasher horror type of movie. And with that, we go to number 8, and that would be Wolf of Snow Hollow. And I actually just watched this movie yesterday. I rented it on YouTube, and it's like $5 or $6 to rent, so it wasn't too crazy, and the way I looked at it is about the same, if not less, than if I went to the drive-ins, and definitely less if I saw it in theaters. So I was like, what the hell, I'll spend a few bucks, I've heard good things about it, and I'm really glad that I did, because this was a really good movie, and very different. It's a werewolf movie, but through a really unique lens, and it has this really weird, quirky kind of humor to it. It reminded me in a lot of ways of the movie Fargo, but picture Fargo with a werewolf. But it's a different way and a different look on the whole werewolf trope, and it just was fun. It just fun, but in a really twisted psychological way that had some really unique messaging to it, and then at the end, it kind of leaves you with, in my opinion, multiple ways you could see the ending. Because to me, I'm not sure if what you see at the end is what actually happens. There's just kind of a weird ending to it. And I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments if any of you have checked this movie out. I'm thinking about doing a review on it, but either way, it was just a really fun watch. And so much so for lots of reasons, because it did cause me to think as well as just have a good time, that I had to include it on this list. Alright, and then at number 7 is VFW. And this was one of the most enjoyable movies of this year. I heard a few people talking about it, but it was late in the year when I finally checked this out. And I'm so glad that I did. This is like an old school badass action movie mixed with horror elements. And just this really, such a badass movie. I mean, just some of the coolest kills and gore. And just these old men that just kick some serious fucking ass and fight through this hell. And I don't know, I just loved it. Maybe because I'm getting older, I can respect these guys. Am I as old as these guys? No, not quite. But a lot of these guys were who I watched in the action movies when I was growing up. So it was really cool to see them in their later years still kicking some serious ass, breaking some bones, and making some bloody faces. It was just such a fun breath of fresh air, very different and unique than a lot of the other movies that I've seen recently. So for that, I definitely had to include it on this list. Alright, next at number 6 is Blood Vessels, which is on Shudder, as well as VFW is on Shudder. There's actually a few of these that are on Shudder, because like you guys know, I love me some Shudder. Alright, so Blood Vessels. This was a really cool kind of throwback feel. It has this really cool period piece element about it, because it's, it takes place in World War II era, and just the attention to detail and the overall feel of it, really, really beautifully done, and so much better than I expected. And then it goes into this kind of a cheesy, I don't know, vampire-ish type of Buffy the Vampire Slayer almost feel, which at first kind of threw me off. And it wasn't until a rewatch when I started to really appreciate this movie, and my love for this movie has grown since that second watch. Because I just love how they have that campy element mixed with this really well done acting and beautiful set piece, and just the way the two kind of blend together just makes for a really interesting, really fun movie. So if you haven't checked out Blood Vessels, I really recommend you check it out. I honestly felt like it was one of the best surprises of the year for me for horror movies. At number 5, we go to Sputnik. And man, this movie was badass. It's the first Russian language movie I have seen in quite a while. I don't watch a lot of subtitled movies because I have a lot of issues with, obviously I have one eye basically, but it's not just that. I just don't have the greatest vision in general, and it just is a little tricky for me to watch subtitles. But I was able to hang with this one, and I was so glad that I did. It's so well worth it. If you haven't seen Sputnik, I could not recommend a movie higher on this list. It is so fun, so well done, and it kind of blends together a lot of different styles of movies, and it feels like it has things that it takes from like Alien and from just multiple movies, but yet it has its own fresh feel about it. And I don't know if that's because it's Russian. I think there's a lot of it because of that, because the cosmonauts and just the way their government and the way they communicate to each other, everything is just a little different than what we're used to in our English, Western world way of seeing the world. So it had that fresh perspective. But then the creature and the way that it's done in this as well, if you don't know, it's basically about a guy who comes back from space. He's a cosmonaut, and he comes back from space with an alien basically as part of his body. And I won't give you away any more than that because I want you to watch this movie if you haven't. And there are definitely some twists and turns and a lot of fun to be had, but it's also a pretty powerful movie that has a lot of emotional elements as well. This is just a well-rounded, really solid film. All right, and with that, we go to number 4, which everybody was talking about this year. If you were in the horror community or even beyond, everybody was talking about this, and that's Host. What a fun little flick this was. What a big surprise this was. The fact that they were able to pull this off during quarantine, just not enough can be said about the magic of what this movie was. If you haven't seen it, watch it on a laptop in a dark room, and I guarantee you will get chills up the back of your neck or whatever. Like, it's just such a fun, quick little, basically hour-long, ghost, scary, creepy little movie. And I could not have enjoyed this more. When it dropped, everything felt bleak and there wasn't things coming out. And it's like out of nowhere, just drops this little ball of horror sunshine. It was just such a fun little movie. So it definitely had to be on my top 10. All right, now we go to number 3, and that would be probably my favorite movie this year. If not my favorite, it's definitely one of my top couple, and that is the film Underwater. Not everybody loves this like I do, and that's fine, I get it. But to me, this movie was magic. It was just fun in so many different ways. Everything from the claustrophobic feel, to the lighting, to the acting, to the creatures. I don't want to give away more if you haven't seen it, but if you're a fan of cosmic horror, if you're a fan of Lovecraftian stuff, this movie just gets better and better and better as it goes. And it's just I just love this movie. And if you want to hear me talk more about this movie, I recommend going and checking out the review I did of it a couple months back. But no matter what, it's just such a fun movie. I do recommend this very highly. All right, number 2 might be the best made horror movie this year, and that's Invisible Man. So many things were done so well about this movie. Everything from the acting to the special effects to the pacing to the camera angles. I mean, the soundtrack. This was just such a well done movie that I loved it. It was so good. It's definitely that immediate classic type of film that we'll be talking about 20 years, 50 years from now. It's definitely going to be a movie that we remember for a very long time, in my opinion, in the horror world. And before we get to my last pick, I just want to give some of my honorable mentions, which these could easily be on this list. Like I said, none of these are really in any order, and these three definitely were ones I thought about as well. And that would be Color Out of Space, which is just a phenomenal, awesome, gripping, horrifying type of movie that is very much that Lovecraftian. I mean, it is. It's Lovecraft. It's a Lovecraft story. So it's one that I highly recommend. Also, The Platform, which is a phenomenal movie on Netflix. Spanish language film, but there is subtitles as well as dubbing, and the dubbing was actually pretty good on it. But it's a very creepy, very interesting, dark story type of film, but another one that I really recommend. And my last honorable mention is to Mortuary Collection, which is just a really fun, great little film. It's very much along the lines of Creepshow and Tales from the Crypt, but just a really cool film in general. Another one that I highly recommend that's on Shudder. Last up on this list at number 1 is The Hunt. And I recommend going and checking out a review I did of that because I had a lot of fun reviewing this film. I loved this film. And I know it's polarizing because I got a lot of response. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's kind of this, like I said, very polarizing kind of film for so many different reasons. And I won't go way into that because, like I said, I did a review on it. But I loved it. I had a blast with the type of humor that it has, with the acting. I love that strong female lead who just kicks some serious fucking ass in this. And that the ultimate villain is also a female. I just love that. It's not seen enough. I love that that's starting to change. Like a week or so ago, I actually posted up my 10 favorite heroines because I just love how female leads are starting to get their chance in action and in horror and being treated as equals. And I just think that's such a fun thing. And that was on display in such a great way in this film. But just in every way, I enjoyed this movie. So that's why it's on this list. So I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to hear what are your favorite horror movies from this year. Because one, there's probably some that I haven't seen yet, and I always love getting recommendations from you guys. But then two, I just love to see if I'm an idiot or not. But no matter what, I had fun making this list. I had fun watching these movies. It has been a great year on this channel. I hit that 1,000 subscriber mark thanks to you guys. And it's just been a great first year for this channel. And I really look forward to what's to come in 2021 on this channel and just in general. And I want to give a big thank you to all my patrons. You guys just really help keep me motivated. I am just so grateful to all you guys. And if you would like to find out more about becoming a patron, the link is down in the description. Alright, that's going to do it for me today. Please hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of when I post videos like this. And I post videos like this at least twice every week. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next year. Ha 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 ha.